3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, John Hope Bryant. All in celebration of the birth of Christ to the world, a gift to the world. He was and remains. And he's mentioned in every religion, by the way. I mentioned on a prior video the bracelets that I wear. This is from the Maasai tribe in Kenya, Africa. Strong black men. This is Mandela's prison number. And these are all the religions in the world, and every one of them mentions and references and pays respect to the man that Christmas is named after, Jesus. And Jesus was once asked, why don't you spend more time with your brother, his physical brother? And he basically said, well, who's my brother? Let's talk about the definition of family for a minute. He said, who's my brother? My brother is the one who takes care of God's children, essentially. I'm paraphrasing. So basically, if you're helping other people, if you're taking care of God's children, if you're being about something larger and more important than yourself, then you're my brother. And he basically said, who's my brother, who's my mother, who's my sister? And that was his redefinition of what we call family. Because we are all family. I'm the founder, chairman, and chief executive officer, for those of you just turning in, to Operation Hope, which just won the Innovator of the Year award from the American Banker. First time in almost 200 years of banking history that a black man in an organization like this, is run by an organization like this, has ever won that award. So we're deeply honored, and that means entrenched work in 2017 at scale. And I'm in the corporate offices for Operation Hope today. We're working, right after Christmas, we're working. So we're America's first and largest nonprofit financial services network for the poor, the underserved, the struggling class, the teetering class, folks with too much money in their money. I'm trying to watch, so Jamie is screwing me up again with my video. I'm trying to watch what you guys are saying here on comments so I can respond. Let me see if I can delete this. I mean, not delete it, but I can mute this. Yeah, I'll mute it so I can actually respond to your comments. Okay, so let me get into the purpose of this video. The video was inspired by Brian Keith Williams, my barber, and Sir James Buchanan, my assistant, and Sharmila Freeman, my other assistant, and other people, Cal Ross and his wife and family, and others that, Andrew Bo Young, Ambassador Young's son, whose children I gave a special gift for Christmas. It was a purpose-driven Christmas gift for children, and I want to share it with you. I mentioned this a little bit on the Facebook post I did the day before Christmas, but I wanted to come at you straight. So, Brian Keith, the guy who does my hair, said, John, this is a new narrative for my family. His wife called me and said, we're thinking about this in a whole different way. I bought stock for children for Christmas. If you give them little gifts, they'll tear them up. By the way, I want to acknowledge Samuel Robinson signing in from Chicago, Kenan Vizion, congrats for the award, thank you, Ismail Fami, Shibuzo, hello, real estate agent, Larisha, Clara Martinez from Marietta, Georgia, and Kevin Crittenden, the lights are Jamie, give him more light. Rashette from South Africa, Jay Jackson, and others. Okay, by the way, I don't know if you guys know what this is, but this is a knight's sword. I was knighted in '98. So that's a whole other story, but if you want to know what that is and why there's a sword in my office, that's what it is for the work of Operation Hope. Okay, so let's get into this new narrative. So if you give a kid a gift for Christmas, as I'm sure many of you did, it'll be told be pushed aside right now. A gift, maybe make it a purpose-giving gift that pays a traded company to young people for their parents. The Fears family will get some stock. Some of the other people I just mentioned, some of the people who work for me at Operation get a share of stock. And I'm gonna do that every Christmas, and when I remember on birthdays, not some stupid toy. And it just completely changed their mindset. So here's what happens. You get a share of stock, and if you're an 11-year-old, 15-year-old kid, you now own a share of a major global publicly traded corporation. Get that. Drop that mic now. And it's registered to you, that kid, with the custodian being the parent if they're under 18. They get dividend payments from that stock. They get a right to vote at the board of directors for Nike or Amazon or whatever company it is you love that's publicly traded. They get to vote at the board of directors meeting. They get to vote on who the board of directors are. You need me to move, Jamie? My director's sort of crap, Jamie Nelson. They get to vote on who the board of director members are. They get to have access to all of the confidentially held financial data and strategy for that company just by owning one share of stock. And to have that framed with a plaque that says a future civil rights leader, their name underneath that. You can do this for $150, by the way. You can do it for $100. And a gift from me and Operation Hope underneath that saying that I believe in you, they get to put that on the wall. So it's a share of stock you get to place on the wall in a frame, and you get to now have a new family conversation about being an owner, about being a stockholder in a major company. And just think what that does to the kid's brain. There's two types of people, those who write checks and those who cash checks. Most people cash checks. They don't write checks. A check writer, let me give you the analogy. People are impressed with the basketball players for the Atlanta Hawks. They're impressed with the basketball players for the Lakers. Oh, look how much money they're making. They're impressed with the rappers and the performers. Okay, and we need artists. Without artists and athletes, the world would be a much less interesting place. But then we start being impressed with how much money they're making, but they're still, respectfully stated, check cashers. Then I say to you, do you know the name? He's going to get upset with me when I say this, but do you know the name? He's a friend of mine. Tony Wrestler. People in Atlanta go, who is that? I don't know. But they know all the players' name on the team for the Atlanta Hawks. Well, Tony Wrestler, a friend of mine, is the owner of the Atlanta Hawks. But nobody knows who he is. Nobody talks about him. But so are you going to be impressed with somebody who cashes a check for $1 million, who's a basketball player? Or are you going to be impressed and inspired by a guy or a woman who owns the team that cashes the checks for the that writes the checks for the basketball players and all the staff? And when you got it rolling like that, when you're a big baller like that, you're making smart sexy. You're redefining the game. You have an ownership mentality. That's why I say there's a difference between being broke and being poor. Being broke is economic, but being poor is a disabling frame of mind, a depressed condition of your spirit. And you must vow never, ever, ever to be poor again. I want you to open the aperture of your mind. I want you to understand now when you walk into Target as they say, or you walk into McDonald's, Mickey D's, or you walk into one of these places and your kid says, I want one of those, then when they say that now, they say, well, wait a minute, Mom, do we own stock in that company? Because why are we helping that company if we're not a shareholder? Because when we help them, we're helping ourselves. Let me give you this quick story of young Derek. Then I'll take some comments and some questions. So young Derek went through our financial literacy program in Detroit. This is a mythical story in Detroit, Michigan. And by the way, Detroit used to be the richest city in the world. Richer than Paris, richer than London, richer than New York. Detroit, Michigan was the richest city in the world, but they didn't get the memo. They didn't spread free enterprise and ownership to all of God's children, and they became arrogant and overconfident about their ability, and then they, of course, end up bankrupt, and they're revitalizing themselves again, and I'm with them on this ride. But we went in to teach children financial literacy. So we're in the classroom, and the young Derek went through this class of financial literacy, Banking on Our Future, we call it, part of our What I'm Building video series. I'll talk about Banking Our Future on one of my series, but this is financial literacy for all children, and we got President George Bush to sign an executive order January 2008 to make financial literacy federal policy in the U.S. That was inspired by the work of Banking on Our Future, which is now taught over 1 million kids financial literacy, 30,000 volunteers. Okay, so we're in the classroom, volunteer banker dressed like me, or better than me, suited and booted. And he goes in, he's teaching, all the kids sitting there like, man, whatever, looking at the ceiling, oh, whatever, man, ain't paying no attention to this. Well, young Derek's paying attention. Then young Derek is raising his hands. Then young Derek sees the dude wearing a suit. He goes home and puts on his Sunday best, the only suit that he owns. And he comes to school in Detroit, inner city Detroit, wearing his suit, making smart sexy. By the way, one of the operational success stories made the suits that I wear. That's Drobe Clothing, Ryan Taylor. So we make sure we are paying it forward. So, and I pay for them personally. Young Derek is going through the thing. He's raising his hand. He graduates from the class, right? So young Derek's walking down the hallway, and he's so proud. His chest is out, his shoulders back. He's got a certificate, like a stock certificate, for his Banking Our Future financial literacy coursework. All this is free, by the way, we provide. And his so-called friends accost him in the hallway. Not physically, worse, mentally, psychologically, mentally, emotionally, intellectually, accosting him. Hey, man, this is the old narrative. Why are you hanging around with those dudes? That ain't about nothing. Why do you want to hang around with those dudes? I was on the Roland Martin show last week. It was fireworks. You haven't seen the show, you should watch it. Great show. And the guy said to me, you just trying to make those white bankers wealthy. You try to get them to make money. I said, yes. Yes, I want them to make money. Ethically, honestly, like not greedy. Like, what do you want people in your neighborhood to go broke? You want people investing in your neighborhood to go broke? They are going to run for the hills. They ain't coming back. I say ain't on purpose. You need people to do well in your neighborhood, so they keep investing in your neighborhoods and keep investing in you. Another topic for another section. So back to the story of Derek. So Derek's in the hallway, and these young kids, man, you hanging around those people. That ain't about nothing. You need to hang around us. And so I go to Derek and say, look, I see you and your friends having a little conflict here. I'm going to give you a little test. I'm going to give each of you $70. Make a decision about Nike. So the two friends say, oh, man, this is easy. We want to buy some Air Jordans, for which you need another $30. And the guy, oh, man, that's all right. I want me some Air Jordans. And I want you to think about now these lines, everybody standing around the lines around the corner for Air Jordans. Why are you cutting off my head, Jamie? Jamie's a horrible producer. He's intentionally cutting off my head. You guys see this. He's intentionally abusing me, right? So, and it's horrible lighting. So he set all this up. He set all this up. I didn't do it. So the kids say, I want to buy one share of Nike stock. Say I want to buy some Air Jordans. Derek says, I want to buy one share of Nike stock. So Derek has done his research. He knows he can buy a share of Nike stock back then for $70. Somebody should do some research and tell me what it is today, by the way. So how do his friends respond? Old software, new software. Derek's got new software. The friends say, man, that's stupid. Why would you want to buy some stupid stock? That's crazy. You can hang around these stupid people for too long. You need to buy you some Air Jordans. Everybody in school has got Air Jordans. Black Air Jordans, fuchsia Air Jordans, purple Air Jordans, leather Air Jordans, vinyl Air Jordans, collector Air Jordans. Everybody in school has got them some Air Jordans. You need to be like all of us, broke, and get you some Air Jordans. So I go to defend Derek's honor. Hey, Derek, man, let me protect you. Derek says, no, it's cool. The mic. You see, Derek is now a shareholder in his mind of Nike. He's taken that certificate of Banking Our Future from Operation Hope. He's converted in his mind to one share of Nike stock. And now he's got an ownership mentality. You see, he's like Tony Wrestler right now. He's like the owner of the football team right now. He's like the owner of the baseball team right now. He's like the owner of the stadium right now. He's like the owner of Nike right now. He's like the owner of Microsoft right now. He's like Steve Jobs right now. He's like the owner of Jet Magazine, the owner of Ebony Magazine. He's got an ownership mentality. His whole narrative has changed from consumer to producer. So now he says, it's okay if you don't want to talk about me. It's okay if you don't like me. I like me. It's okay if you want to play or hate me. I'm going to own not just the fish and the fishing pole. I'm going to own the fishing pond. Don't give me a fish. Teach me how to fish, and so I can own the lake. Boom. His friends. Let me tell you something. Here's what I guarantee you as you go into 2017. If you hang around 9 broke people, you'll be the 10th. Whatever you hang around, you will emulate. So I want to give kids who I know a share of stock so that they have a Derrick mentality. They have a banking on our future mentality. They have a financial literacy mentality. So we can finish the work that the Freedmen's Bank dreamed up in 1865 with Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. Not a broke man, Frederick Douglass, a businessman, a property owner who became an abolitionist. But all we know was that he's an abolitionist. Again, old software. You got to understand, under most things is money and economics. Even that inanimate object, that parking meter in front of your house or in front of your job has figured out capitalism, but we haven't. That parking meter is taking your money and is earning a return on investment, and it don't even have emotions. It don't have a family, but it has figured out capitalism, and we have not. Here's a Shimon Peres quote, and I'm going to leave you alone today because I know I'm boring you. Shimon Peres, God rest his soul, told me when I was in Jordan with him. He said, John, people are going to criticize you for your movement. They don't understand what you're trying to do. But you tell them in the midst of your criticism 2 things. I like what you're doing, much better than what they're not doing. Number 2, even if you want to distribute money like a socialist, you got to first collect money like a capitalist. So capitalism and money is not bad. The Bible says this, it's the love of money that's bad. It's the greed. It's the disrespect. It's the arrogance. But what if you made yourself a force for good? What if you created stockholders and shareholders of your children and let them have an ownership mentality, taught them to not just go get a job, but to create a job, and then create a job for themselves and for others and their friends, and they were able to hook up their family and their community and became philanthropists and created foundations to give back to the community. Boom, don't get me started. Then you can be Frederick Douglass all over again, and Dr. Dorothy Height, black woman that owned the only building on Pennsylvania Avenue, the National Council for Negro Women. So we're going to change the narrative, and I'm going to answer some questions here because I'm getting excited. Okay. Ismail Fahmy, you say you don't buy Air Jordans, but Jordan is just a lower expression of Nike's wealth. Actually, I do own Air Jordans. I didn't say anybody buy Air Jordans. I do own some Air Jordans, but I own stock in whatever it is that I wear. That's nobody's perfect, right? So, but I'm not saying I'm a Michael Jordan fan or not. He was a brilliant basketball player. But some social things I think he could have handled, social graces he could have handled differently. Really widely spread lie that he owned stock in private prisons. That is incorrect. It is Michael Jordan, but it's not that Michael Jordan. It is a businessman named Michael Jordan of a different persuasion. So stop spreading all that evil mess and figure out what you're for and not what you're against, and stop jamming up people who are out here trying to succeed. And, successful people don't spend any time talking about negative stuff or talking about other people. They talk about their ideas. Negative people talk about other people. I'm not saying the commenter was talking about that, by the way. But positive people talk about their ideas and what they're going to do. Figure out what you're for and stop being an expert in what you are against. Joan, I'm sure I'm saying your name wrong. Lizur, black people be marching and protesting with empty pockets. Well, you said it, I didn't. Let me see. Larissa says truth. Larissa says, who are the critics? Who cares? Well, you know what? My point is, I'm trying to get you immune. I take no for vitamins. It don't bother me. I'm trying, by telling you that it's not just a love fest, I'm trying to suggest to you that leadership can be a lonely road sometimes, but that's okay, that eagles don't fly in packs. That you've never seen a flock of eagles. But buzzards are low altitude birds and they love packs. and turkeys got wings and can't fly. Profiling. So I don't mind being an eagle flying alone. And they called Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who we all prefer, and Dr. Martin Luther King, and Uncle Tom, and Sellout, and Wannabe. And those were his so-called friends. They called Nelson Mandela horrible things. They called Gandhi horrible things. All I'm saying is, if you're out here in the vineyards of leadership, you're going to be misunderstood and criticized, but that is okay. Look, Jesus didn't die of old age. I'm going to do a whole video on our leaders. You think about it, none of them died of old age, really. Most of them were taken out because we couldn't handle their truth. It was just too much truth. But here's what Dr. King said. If you don't know what you're willing to live for, if you don't know what you're willing to die for, you aren't fit to live. Boom. All right. Larisha, exactly. Raise the leaders of tomorrow. Kenneth Taylor, good stuff. I need your mentorship. You got it right here. Zena says, preach. Love you, Mr. Bryant. Love back at you. Larisha says, yes, that is smarter than a pair of shoes someone made in China. An iPhone, where the money goes for Nike pair of shoes. I'm going to break down to you what part of it goes to the U.S., what part of it goes to Asia, what part of it goes to marketing. You'd be stunned. And it is not what you think, by the way. And even if, by the way, we tore up our trade agreements with China or whatever, America's factories would still not be producing those in the U.S. So all this stuff you hear about, all we got to do is put up walls with the rest of the world, is wrong, and it will destroy diverse people from all around the world, because unless you're Chinese, you don't trade with China. Unless you're Nigerian, you don't trade with Nigerians. Unless you're South African, you don't trade with South Africa. So you have people here, the only nation in the world, reflecting every race in the world, trading with every race in the world, and doing business around the world, which is why we're the largest. Okay, support black business and black banks. Lakeem said that, yes. But don't support them to the exclusion of other banks that are also trying to help your community. Yes, we need to build black institutions. Yes, if you're black. If you're Latino, you need to build Latino institutions. If you're Asian, and yes, we need to do that. But you don't do that to the exclusion of somebody else who wants to help you in your community. You cannot segregate your life and integrate your pocket. You cannot segregate your life and integrate your pocket. You cannot segregate your life and integrate your pocket. It doesn't make sense. It's not good math. And by the way, even if you had a full market of 35 million black people, there's 7 billion people on the planet. So now you're just going to do business with 35 million black people, most of which, by the way, probably won't give you their business. So now let's say you have 3 million customers. Now let's say you have 300,000 customers. Business sign or Jewish business sign. No, the color of money is green. They're doing business with everybody, but they're proud of being a black business owner. So don't be black for a living. Be a great leader who happens to be black and not a black leader. You hear me? Be a great leader who happens to be black and not a black leader. Be a great leader who happens to be black, happens to be Latino, happens to be Filipino, and be proud of it. Not a race leader. I'm very clear about that and proud of it, right? But you can't be wearing that as a badge of exclusion and expect some people who don't look like you to want to do business with you and hook you up, which means your market has become incredibly small. No is the most liberating word in the English. Absolutely. I say no to all kind of crazy stuff. No, you cannot sleep on my couch. Go get a job. No, you cannot have. No, you're a mother or a father. No, there's a lot of love in the word no. I agree with you completely. Larisha said it's only at the top. Exactly. Kathleen Boston, leadership is not for those. Packs. Absolutely. Let me see. Hope Tiffany, any opportunity to host a Black Entrepreneurs web series featuring black business owners on your live video? Yes, it's a great idea. And Jamie just volunteered to organize it. Actually, he didn't volunteer. I just volunteered him because he's got me with his color of the wall or something. So he's volunteered to do it. It's a great idea, Tiffany. Reggie Davis, amen, brother. Hope I want to be an eagle, amen. Okay, I love you guys. I love you much. It's the Unbought series. It's a civil rights series, straight talk and no chaser, coming under you, unbought, unbiased. And this is, by the way, that was a Chisholm quote, Congresswoman Chisholm. I just borrowed it. Unbought and unbossed, unbiased, coming to you straight and no chaser, from Atlanta, Georgia, at the Hope Global headquarters for Operation Hope, in the Civil Rights Series, lifting your life up and empowering you to be better.